Your heart has its own brain, not a metaphor, a real one. Around 40,000 neurons sit inside your heart, sensing, learning, remembering, and making decisions without asking your skull for permission. And here is what should stop you cold. Your heart sends more signals up to your brain than your brain sends down to it. For most of your life, the conversation has been running in a direction nobody told you about. Here is what everyone has been taught about the heart. It is a pump, a muscle, a reliable, mindless machine that pushes blood around the body, beating about 100,000 times a day, taking orders from the brain and otherwise doing nothing clever at all. The brain thinks, the heart obeys. That has been the picture since grade school biology. That picture is wrong, and the science correcting it is now decades old. In the 1990s, a researcher named Dr. J. Andrew Armour, working in neurocardiology, described something that did not fit the pump story at all. The heart, he showed, contains its own dense network of neurons, a cluster of nerve cells complex enough that he called it the heart brain. It is not borrowing the skull's brain, it has its own. Roughly 40,000 specialized neurons, called sensory neurites, woven into the heart's walls. Sit with what that means. There is thinking tissue beating in your chest. And this little brain is not just decoration. It can sense. It can process information. It can learn from experience and form a kind of memory. It can make decisions on its own, independent of the head, adjusting the heart's behavior moment to moment without waiting for instructions from above. Some of this is still debated, and serious scientists disagree about how far to push the word intelligence. But the anatomy is not in dispute. Here is the fact that overturns everything. Measure the traffic between heart and head, and most of it flows upward, from heart to brain, not down. The heart is doing far more talking than listening. But the real question is what it is saying. Because if your heart is sending a constant stream of signals up to your brain, those signals must be doing something. And what they are doing reaches into your emotions, your decisions, and your clearest thinking in ways no one ever told you. Start with the wiring, because this is where the old story falls apart. The main cable between your heart and your brain is the vagus nerve, a thick highway of nerve fibers running from the base of your skull down into your chest and gut. For a long time, people assumed this cable existed mainly to let the brain control the heart. Slow it down, speed it up, manage the pump. Top-down command. Then the fibers were actually counted, and the result reversed the picture. Roughly 80 to 90% of the fibers in the vagus nerve are afferent, meaning they carry signals upward, from the body to the brain, not downward. The cable is mostly an uplink. Your heart and your gut are reporting to your brain far more than your brain is issuing orders to them. Sit with that ratio. For every one signal your brain sends to your heart sends roughly 4 to 9 back. Let me give you the analogy that makes this real. For your whole life, you have pictured the brain as the chief executive in the top floor office, sending memos down to the staff, including the heart. The heart in that picture is a worker who does what it is told. But the wiring says the opposite. The heart is more like the seasoned field agent on the ground, constantly radioing detailed reports up to headquarters. Conditions here, threat level here, energy state here, and headquarters is largely shaping its decisions around those reports. The executive upstairs is not commanding as much as you thought. It is listening. Now here is where it touches your actual experience. Your heart does not beat like a metronome. You might think a healthy heart is a steady, even tick-tock, same gap between every beat. The opposite is true. A healthy heart's rhythm is constantly, subtly varying, speeding a little, slowing a little, beat to beat. This variation has a name, heart rate variability, or HRV, and it is one of the most revealing measurements in all of medicine. High variability, a heart flexibly changing its pace, is a sign of a resilient, adaptable system. Low variability, a heart beating with rigid, machine-like sameness, is linked to stress, illness, and worse outcomes. Large studies, including long-running work like the Framingham Heart Study, have connected low heart rate variability to higher risk of disease and death. Your heart's willingness to vary its rhythm is, quite literally, a measure of your capacity to adapt to life. And here is the part that should make you lean in. That rhythm is not just reflecting your state, it is shaping your brain. The pattern of signals your heart sends upward changes how your brain operates, which brings us to the most surprising finding of all. You have felt this without knowing the mechanism. Your heart races before your conscious mind registers fear. Your chest tightens before you have named what is wrong. The body knew first and reported up. That is the field agent radioing headquarters before the executive has finished reading the morning paper. But this is only the surface, because if your heart is constantly sending signals that shape your brain, the next question is staggering. Can your heart actually change how well you think? Here is the part almost no one talks about. The rhythm of your heart directly affects your ability to think clearly, to focus, and to stay calm under pressure. Your heart is not just reporting on your state, it is steering your brain's performance. Stay with me, because the next 90 seconds reframe everything. When your heart beats in a smooth, ordered, flowing rhythm, the kind it produces when you are calm and steady, it sends an ordered, coherent stream of signals up the vagus nerve to your brain. Researchers at the HeartMath Institute have spent years studying this pattern, which they call coherence. And when the heart signal is coherent, something measurable happens upstairs. The higher thinking centers of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, function better. Focus sharpens. Decision-making improves. Emotional control strengthens. Now flip it. When your heart beats in a jagged, erratic, stressed rhythm, the pattern of anxiety, anger, or fear, it sends a chaotic, disordered signal upward. And that chaotic signal does something specific and damaging. It inhibits the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, the part of you that reasons, plans, and stays measured. Read that again. A stressed heart rhythm partly shuts down your smartest brain region. This is the mechanism behind something you have lived through. Think of the last time you were furious or panicking, and you said or did something foolish, something you would never do calm. You did not become a worse person in that moment. Your heart's chaotic signal had reached up and dampened the very brain region that would have stopped you. People say, "I wasn't thinking straight." They were more right than they knew. The heart had jammed the line. And this is why, when you are gripped by strong emotion, reasoning with yourself rarely works. You cannot think your way calm when the part of you that does the thinking has been turned down by the rhythm in your chest. The order has to come from below. You have to change the heart signal first, and then the thinking brain comes back online. If this is making sense, and you want the part that follows, the simple physical technique that lets you deliberately shift your heart into that coherent rhythm and switch your clear thinking back on in about a minute, subscribe now. That section is coming in minutes, and it is something you can use the very next time life pushes you to the edge. Now the empathy moment. Have you ever woken at 3 in the morning, heart thudding, with a worry that felt enormous and unsolvable in the dark, only to find that by daylight, the same problem seemed manageable? Your problem did not shrink overnight. Your heart's rhythm settled, the chaotic signal eased off your prefrontal cortex, and your full thinking brain came back. The fear at 3 a.m. was real, but it was partly your heart in a stressed rhythm, holding your reason hostage. There is even evidence, still debated, and the research is genuinely evolving here, that the heart may respond to events slightly before the conscious mind does. Some experiments have suggested the heart's rhythm shifts a fraction of a second ahead of certain reactions. Serious scientists are cautious about these findings, and they are not settled. But the cautious version of the claim is remarkable enough. Your heart is deeply woven into the timing of your perception, not trailing behind it. But none of this, not the heart brain, not the upward signals, not the grip on your reason, none of it matters until you understand the deepest layer. Because the heart's intelligence is not only about thinking, it may be the seat of something far older and far harder to measure. What almost nobody talks about is this. The heart appears to carry a kind of emotional knowing that runs ahead of, and deeper than, the thinking mind. And across nearly every human culture, people sense this long before science could measure it. Stop and notice something strange. In language after language, for thousands of years, human beings have placed their feelings, their courage, their love, and their truest self in the heart, not the head. We say, "I know it in my heart." Heartbroken. Take heart. A heartfelt decision. Learn it by heart. Every culture did this independently. They had no neuroscience. They had no way to count neurons or measure the vagus nerve. And yet they all pointed at the chest. For a long time, science dismissed this as poetry, a charming mistake. But the discovery of the heart's own neurons and the river of signals it sends to the brain raises a humbling possibility. Maybe it was never just poetry. Maybe people were reporting accurately something they could feel. That the heart genuinely participates in knowing and feeling, and is not merely a pump that romance got attached to. Read that again. Every human culture located the self in the heart. They may have been describing a real organ doing real work that we only learned to measure a few decades ago. Here is where it goes further still, into territory that is genuinely contested. After heart transplants, a small number of recipients have reported strange shifts, new cravings, unfamiliar preferences, even fragments of feeling they say they never had before, sometimes seeming to echo the donor. These accounts are anecdotal, they are fiercely disputed, and many scientists attribute them to medication, stress, or coincidence. I am not telling you they are proven, they are not. But there is a serious scientific concept that makes people pause before dismissing them entirely. The idea of cellular memory, the possibility that information might be stored in the body's tissues, not only in the brain. Depending on who you ask, this is either a frontier worth investigating or a myth that refuses to die. The honest answer is that we do not yet know. What we do know is solid enough to be astonishing on its own. Your heart has neurons. It senses and processes. It learns. It sends more signals up than it receives down. It shapes your emotions and your clearest thinking. It generates the body's strongest electromagnetic field, a field measurable with sensitive instruments that extends outward from your chest and can be detected several feet from your body. When people are near each other, there is even evidence that one person's heartbeat can register faintly in another person's brainwaves. We are, in a quiet and literal sense, broadcasting from the chest. And there is a final layer that touches what it means to be a whole person. We have spent a few centuries believing the brain is the throne of the self and the body is just its vehicle. But the heart's intelligence suggests something the ancients took for granted and we forgot, that you do not think only with your head, you think with your whole body. The self is not a brain piloting a machine. It is a conversation between a head that reasons and a heart that feels and senses and, in its own way, knows. Neither one is the whole of you. This should feel like losing the clean, simple story of the brain in charge. Instead, it gives you something more powerful and more useful. Because if your heart shapes your thinking, then learning to steady your heart becomes one of the most practical skills a person can own. So the question becomes the only one that matters. If your heart is constantly shaping your brain, how do you deliberately tune the signal it sends? Here is what actually works, drawn from the science of heart rhythm and the vagus nerve. Each step changes the signal your heart sends upward, so your thinking brain can do its job. Step 1. Breathe at the heart's resonant pace, about 5 to 6 breaths a minute. This is the single most powerful tool here. Breathe in slowly for a count of about 5, then out slowly for about 5. At this pace, your heart rhythm and your breathing lock into a smooth, coherent wave, and your heart rate variability rises almost immediately. Do it for 2 minutes when stress hits. You are physically shifting your heart out of its chaotic pattern and lifting the brake off your prefrontal cortex. This is the calm coming from below, where it actually starts. Step 2. Breathe out longer than you breathe in. The vagus nerve, that mostly upward cable, is most strongly engaged on the exhale. A long out-breath sends a calming signal through the whole system. So make your exhale longer than your inhale. In for 4, out for 6 or 8. This is the fastest way to slow a racing heart, and you can do it invisibly in any tense moment. A hard conversation, a waiting room, a sleepless night. Tell me in the comments, have you ever tried slow breathing in a moment of panic and felt it actually work? Many people are amazed the first time. Step 3. Pair the breathing with a genuine feeling of warmth or gratitude. The HeartMath research found that coherence deepens fastest not from breathing alone, but from breathing while deliberately recalling something you genuinely appreciate, a person you love, a place that calms you. The feeling shifts the heart's rhythm further into order than mechanics alone can. Focus your attention on the area of your chest. Breathe slowly and hold the warm feeling. 60 seconds can change your whole state. Step 4. Protect your heart rate variability with the basics, because it reflects your whole resilience. Quality sleep raises it. Regular movement raises it. Chronic stress and too much alcohol crush it. You can even measure it now. Many ordinary fitness trackers estimate HRV overnight, giving you a daily read on how adaptable your system is. Watch the trend. It is one of the most honest signals your body offers. Step 5. When emotion floods you, change the heart before you trust the thought. Make this your rule. In the grip of anger, fear, or panic, do not act and do not decide. First, slow your breath for 1 full minute to bring your thinking brain back online. Only then choose. You are refusing to let a chaotic heart rhythm make decisions your calm self would never make. This one discipline can save relationships, careers, and more. If even one of these ideas was new to you, hit the like button. It is a small thing, but it tells the algorithm to show this to more people who have spent their whole lives ignoring the intelligence beating in their own chest. Do these 5 things and you stop being at the mercy of your own heart's storms. You learn to steady the signal at its source. You cannot command your heart by willpower, but you can speak to it through your breath and it will answer. So look again at what you actually are. You are not a brain riding around in a body that serves it. You are a partnership, a head that reasons and a heart that feels, senses, remembers, and quietly shapes nearly every thought you believe you are thinking on your own. For a few centuries, we crowned the brain and reduced the heart to plumbing. The science is now gently overturning that and returning to something humanity seemed to know long before it could prove it. There is something almost tender in this. The ancients who said, "Follow your heart," were not being sentimental. They were pointing, with no instruments at all, at an organ that genuinely participates in your knowing. And every time you have felt the truth of something in your chest before your mind could explain it, you were not imagining it. You were listening to the oldest intelligence you carry. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What is one decision in your life that your heart got right before your head caught up? I read these and they stay with me. Here is the line to carry out of this. You were never just a mind with a heartbeat. You are a heart that learned to think. If this gave you a new way to understand yourself, share it with someone who has spent too long living only in their head. They may have forgotten there is another intelligence waiting in their chest. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. What I am working on next goes deeper still, into the silent conversation between your body and the person standing next to you. Place your hand on your chest. Something in there has been listening all along.